Hey everyone, welcome to Hand Rolled Real Estate. I'm Robbie. I'm here with Jay, and we're passionate about cigars and real estate. We're still smoking this Tatuaje Limited and really enjoying it. And today we're going to kind of talk about uh, some of the hotter markets like San Antonio, Texas. I guess CoStar said and identified it as the fastest growing city in the U.S. right now. And maybe some of the supply and demand issues that they're having in other places around the country.
Man, I'm just really enjoying this cigar. But welcome everybody. I'm Junaid Noor. Thank you, Robbie, for the introduction. I'm liking this Tatuaje limited. Tatuaje very rarely disappoints me. Just a little bit about the cigar. It's a Bellicoso size, so it's longer than a Toro, but the ring gauge is almost the same as a Toro. So yeah, I'm really liking this cigar. But yes, back to our program. So yeah, CoStar just came out and said that San Antonio is the fastest growing real estate market in the country. And of course, if you look at different newspapers and different articles, they'll say different things. But CoStar is a legitimate company and they do some legitimate research. And you know, um, I'm not really all that surprised because San Antonio was one of those markets that was kind of growing a lot slower, and so it was starting to catch up. And Dallas, we know, is a little overbuilt. Austin is very overbuilt. Houston is still neutral from the last report that I read. Supply and demand are pretty much in sync, but there have been no new starts. So in the next few years, we're going to lose supply again. Um, but San Antonio is a fast growing city, and mainly it's because the jobs are coming in and housing is still affordable.
Yeah, the San Antonio market is a very affordable housing market. I'm not up current on all of the job opportunities that are available there, but clearly it's an attractive place to be, just geographically, and San Antonio is a cool place to be, and very affordable. But I think San Antonio struggles with the same thing a lot of other places around the country do right now is supply.
Well, lucky for you, Robbie, our research team, our unionized research team, found some good numbers, and they found out that pharmaceuticals and biosciences are really big, growing very rapidly in San Antonio. And of course, we know we talked about this in a prior episode about life science buildings being the fastest growing sector of the office market space, because life sciences buildings are pharmaceuticals are growing fast as people age and they need newer drugs. As pharmaceuticals grow, they need more and more space to be able to do research, and a lot of the space is in Boston and in on the West Coast, Silicon Valley side. But as Texas, as Austin is becoming a very large tech center, San Antonio is starting to get the pharmaceutical companies pouring into there as well. So that's one of the reasons it's growing so fast.
As you mentioned about the San Antonio market maybe growing a little slower than the rest of the Texas market, and now it's still continuing to grow as maybe some of the other cities cool down a little bit. I mean, I think their affordability is probably going to get impacted a little bit, like it did here in Houston and Dallas. That the home prices are going to go up because the supply is going to be an issue.
Well, since 2008, obviously right after 2008, banks slowed down lending on development, and we had a lot of inventory, right? We had a lot of inventory on hand. A lot of people left their homes, handed their keys into the banks, and so developers really slowed down on development. But right now, we have a 5 million unit housing shortage across the US. And just quick math, if you have a 5 million unit housing shortage across the US and developers are only developing 1.1% year over year, we're never going to catch up because that shortage is going to just keep going and going and going. And there's only a 1% delivery rate.
Well, and I think that's exactly why the home prices are going to continue to go up. And I think that, you're going to see some new solutions in home building. You're going to see smaller units. We've seen the evolution of BTR, which is the build to rent, and I think you're going to see some changes. Right, the developers and everyone they're going to have to change the product they offer uh, to come down to the affordable level for the average household.
And with 5 million units short and developers only bringing in 1.1% new supply year over year, and so the other problem is that existing home sales, right? I think we said that we did some research and we figured out something like 92% of all single family mortgages are under 6% interest rates, and about 23% are below 3%. So, with interest rates hitting 7.5 right now, people who are living in their existing homes are reluctant to sell their homes and move up or move out or move into a newer home, So existing home sales, existing home supply is very low. And then apartments, only 150,000 units were delivered last year by 25.
Sorry,
The top 25 apartment developers only built 150,000 units last year
and that's nationwide.
nationwide.
Okay, sorry. With the single family homes, that's one solution to housing, but the apartments is another. And last year, the top 25 multifamily builders, they only put out 150,000 new units, and I think for the last few quarters, those numbers are only decreasing. So I think we're going to have a huge demand for these units in the next year or two.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that in Houston, no new starts. There's some deliveries that are still happening in 2024 in Houston, but there are no new starts in the past 6 months, and even in the last quarter of 2023, there were no new starts happening, and uh, obviously, like we always keep saying, right, that real estate is very, very, very local. It's not even regional; it's very local, right? So yes, Austin is a little overbuilt. Dallas is getting a little overbuilt, and that's because there was a huge demand there, and there were jobs there, and people, the developers started building there. But if you look across the U.S., there are pockets that still are requiring a lot of apartments, and those are not being built. And so, that shortage is going to continue for years and years and years.
With all the current supply issues, and it seems like lately we've just had a lot of natural disasters and a lot of climate things that have the climate events that have impacted housing and the destruction of houses and now the rebuilding of these houses, and that's going to have a negative impact on the supply as well.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, we had a tornado touchdown in Metro Houston, and I don't think that's ever happened before. For a tornado to touch down in a large metropolitan area like that, when you have tall buildings, you usually don't have tornadoes. But because we live in Houston and Houston is part of the Gulf Coast, every year, if there are hurricanes coming into Louisiana or Florida or even Corpus Christi, Houston gets impacted. Those insurance rates go up because cost of materials, cost of labor keeps going up. And the other problem is that it will keep adding to the shortage because now, you have these, poor people who've lost their homes. They need to go somewhere. So they need to go to either some midterm housing while their existing house gets built, or they have to find a new house, and there aren't that many new houses on the market. I mean, the big home builders, KB Homes and DR Horton, Pulte, if they're only bringing in 1.1% new inventory year over year, they're just not being able to keep up with the demand.
Yeah, I mean, and in the Houston area, I mean, it is greatly impacted by hurricane, and you can have thousands of people displaced, and whether their solution is midterm rental, leasing, renting, while they're displaced, it greatly impacts the market. I remember during Harvey, FEMA brought in thousands, tens of thousands of mobile homes because there just wasn't enough housing here in Houston to support the displaced families.
Yeah, and one of the other problems is because we're in the development sector. jurisdictions are putting more and more restrictive laws in building. So it's getting more and more difficult. And actually, I was reading a report the other day. It said that multifamily a multifamily home, a multifamily property that would normally take 16 months to build is now taking 18 to 20 months just because of permitting issues. So until jurisdictions start relaxing some of these rules, until the state of Texas steps up and does something about the insurance problems that we're having here in Texas, and other cities all along the Gulf Coast, um, housing is going to be less and less affordable. And then, of course, we have the interest rates, right? Right now, as of today, it doesn't, and we're sitting at right around June 1st, it doesn't look like interest rates are going to be lowered anytime soon, maybe in the third quarter, uh, but not by much. So, your mortgage rates are still going to remain high. And because of the housing shortage, prices will remain high. What are people going to do? Where are they going to live?
Yeah, and I think we've touched on this BTR concept, and I think a lot of developers and sponsors and GPs are looking at that really hard, and we've seen several of the BTR concept communities pop up, and it's just an option for somebody that either there's not a home available, they don't have the down payment, but they still want that single family home with a garage and a yard. That BTR is a pretty viable solution, I think.
And if you look at, and there's a lot of houses here from the 70s in Houston and all across the US, but if you look at the houses that were built in the 70s, which was high inflation, high interest rates, they were 12, 13, 1,400 square feet, known as basically starter homes. Now, I was reading another statistic, and it basically showed that back in the 50s, starter homes made up about 50% of all new home deliveries. And as of last 2 years ago, um, they made up only about 5%. And I think where we are headed is starter homes again, right? Under 1,400 square foot or less in size, so that they're more affordable, given that they'll be cheaper to build and they will be, the interest rates, um, which are not, I don't think, I'm not going to see interest rates go back down to 2 and 3% for at least another 20 years. Um, with the interest rates being at 6, 7%, people can afford a 1,400 square foot home instead of these large 4 and 5,000 square foot homes that we're used to in Texas.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. I think the home sizes are going to go down. I think some of the luxuries that are currently just out there and their standard options, I think those are going to truly go away. I think they're going to have to get really economical on how they construct these houses to keep up with the demand. I mean, you look at these houses, these 4,000 square foot houses, 5,000. Some of those people are even they have their children still living there until they're in their 30s. Things are changing, and that's the only way they can afford to stay where they're at.
Yeah, and I think that the jurisdictions who issue the permits are going to have to play ball. They're going to have to work a little bit better. And we mentioned this in a previous episode that, the city of Chicago is putting money in because older office buildings in downtown Chicago are vacant. So now the city is doing a public-private partnership with developers where the city is going to put money in to convert some of those buildings into condominiums so that there will be more residential development going on in Chicago, and people will start moving in there. Um, but yeah, some of the jurisdictions here in Texas are difficult to work with.
Oh, no doubt. And I think that some of the opportunity zones and things like that, they are permit friendly. They are looking for that development in those areas. So there's a lot of people that actually seek those opportunity zones out, obviously for investment purposes, but also for just the speed and ease in which some of those projects are permitted.
And I'll give you an example. There was a tract of land we were looking at to build townhomes or smaller patio homes, which would be affordable, between $325,000 and $350,000. But the zoning required that the the lot size be 7,500 square feet. Well, a 7,500 square foot house, if you know, I mean, I'm sorry, a 7,500 square foot lot, and then they want a minimum of a 2,500 to 3,000 square foot home. Well, those are not affordable. People are not going to buy those, and so developers are not going to develop those. And it's become a very difficult process to work with the city and say, hey, you guys need to rezone this so we can build smaller homes that are affordable for people to live in.
Yeah, and I think those are some of the things that these municipalities are going to have to look at and make some concessions. There were some ways around that, but you didn't get to truly offer the single family home. You had to do a duplex or a quadplex in order to achieve that same, uh, the cost savings that we were looking for. However, at 7,500 square foot lots, to try and absorb that cost of the property in the single family home, it just wasn't feasible.
So at the end of this discussion, we think that real estate is very localized, and there are still pockets that the demand is going to be there. We know that there's a huge housing shortage in the U.S. It's not going to get resolved anytime soon. Governments are really going to have to catch up with the times and start making changes to their zoning laws and their permitting process and making it easier for developers to develop smaller homes. And that's going to be the way to go. If you look at tight cities like London or Tokyo, small homes. Nobody has, you know, they have 1,000 square foot homes. They don't have these 4,000 and 5,000 square foot houses. So I think we're gonna start shifting back to the 70s where we start building smaller homes and more affordable homes.
Whether you you live in San Antonio, which is a fast or the fastest growing city, or you live in one of these cities where there's a mass exodus and everybody's leaving for whatever reason, do your due diligence, know your local market, and invest wisely.
Well, we hope you enjoyed our episode. Feel free to subscribe to our podcast and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out our website, www.albanyparkcapital.com. We have a lot of free articles there. We're going to start putting up some calculators and some things where people can, look at um, feasibility for different types of real estate properties. And just leave us some comments. Let us know if there's something that we need to talk about, or if you don't agree with us, we'd love to hear from you.
Grab a good smoke, click around on our website, and happy investing.